We'll move on to citizens' comments or requests. Citizens will be recognized about just about $30,000 to do the 900 or 1,000 homes. It's unfortunate that we even had to have this meeting this evening. We did know about it 2 weeks prior when the city attorney met with us individually so that we didn't have a meeting to go through the allegations raised by Mr. Raymore. Most of those allegations had to do with the supervision and things that were done from a supervisor standpoint, not necessarily dealing with hazardous
Concerns about lead, a new water problem, a related problem causing some concern, a water main break near the intersection of Middle Belt and Ann Arbor Trail. Workers were called in to make repairs last night, but the Westland whistleblower says the work was not done properly, and safety inspectors confirmed that on the scene.
Materials or lead in the water. He even got up here this evening and said, Westland doesn't have a problem with lead in the water. But it's that fear, uncertainty, and doubt that caused all of you people to come up here today. Do we need, in my opinion, do we need to test all of these homes? Do we need to expand this test? No. Well, wait a minute. Let's look at this from the standpoint of, yes, we're going to do it to try and alleviate the fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Yards over the weekend to confirm they were in fact underground. 10 of the 11 service lines were copper, even though they're listed on city documents as being lead. Does it give a false impression about what it could really be if these service lines were copper all along and yet the city had them listed as lead?
Well, I think at the end of the day, the good news is that they're copper.
I get that.
Even if the paper says that they were lead and we were testing them every year anyway, you know, those, when you look at that report, there's not one of those reports that came back that it was elevated.
They designed a list of known copper homes and submitted them as lead. They got the lower samples. As you can see right here, it's 2.0, 2.0, 2.0.
Now, the city will have a lab collect water samples, and the results should be back within a couple of weeks. In Westland, I'm Randy Wembley, and this is The Edge.
But the fear, uncertainty, and doubt didn't even need to occur had the time been given to, and the investigation, what it revealed to the council members. We were all concerned when we got the information as well. You know, not all of us went out there and took photos and got our Facebook pages updated, but I was out there, as were other council members, to make sure that things were being done. Our DPS crew did a great job. They acted quickly, very efficiently, and you know, it's unfortunate that we let the spin take over the reality. The reality is that probably 99% of all of the old lead leads in this city have been replaced 15 to 20 years ago. And because of an allegation, we created this, we've got lead in the water. The Westland Watchdog site, Mr. Campbell and Mr. Boron on his site, on the whatever it's called, you know, spun this out of control, created this fervor in the community that we've got lead in our water. And here tonight, Mr. Raymore even admits, we don't have lead in our water. So, excuse me, I didn't interrupt you when you were up there speaking. So the fact of the matter is, it was a personnel issue. It was brought to our attention 2 weeks prior, not like Mr. Coleman indicated that it was a shock out of the blue. It was a personnel issue that was brought forward. It was explained to us, and before the city attorney, the 2 weeks later, like he indicated, came back with his report on what he found as part of the allegations. Mr. Raymore gets up and makes his statements at the council meeting, which caused this whole furor. If you really look at the timeline of events that occurred and how these complaints came about because he's concerned, it had to do with losing a Civil Rights Commission filing and an EEOC complaint. And it came ironically about 2 weeks after the claim was denied. Excuse me. So, excuse me, I'm not killing the messenger. I'm stating facts, sir. Raymore, you're out of order. Mr. Raymore, you're out of order.
And finally, let's be proactive about our water rates instead of reactive. That's why we elected you. And I have one question. How many lead water services from the pipe to the main to the homes does the city still have? Thank you.
There was also a sort of a passing shot on lead services as well. Those lead services to which he was referring are actually, if they exist, are probably owned by the homeowners. And what's substantially different, I'm always concerned when people throw something out, it creates a little bit of panic. What's substantially different from Detroit and Flint, or Westland and Flint, or make a comment that I may have made a mistake. I know that's hard to believe, but if I said last time there were no lead service lines in the city, that would have been a mistake on my part. There still are some left in the city. Last time we were talking about whether or not there was lead in the water, and I thought I talked about how there
My motive is clear, Mr. Fasson. I can no longer, with good conscience, ignore the potentially dangerous health issues created by our city leaders, and the public has a legitimate right to know. And after hearing City Attorney Fasson's answer to a question from Bill Campbell weeks ago about lead water services in our city, I was totally sickened. Due in part, in closing, due in part to the city's failure or refusal to respond, I am compelled to turn these complaints and evidence over to the MDEQ and the EPA for investigation. Thank you.
Is there anyone on my left? Anyone on
The city attorney address Mr. Raymore's his comments here tonight.
State and federal research. We have talked with US EPA about the process being used by the city of Westland with regards to the replacement of city-owned lead service lines. And I've had the opportunity to review relevant work orders and other documents to the extent I could find them. Or I should say to the extent the DPS department could find them. What we concluded, and this, as I've reported out to council members individually, the city did not violate any state or federal law by repairing or replacing city lead water lines without sending a notice to residents for conducting supplemental water tests. That's not the requirement of the law. I've also reported out that as it relates to the discharge of sewage, alleged sewage in the DPS yard, while the city can dispose of liquefied waste down the sewer system in the yard, contaminated soils should be placed in containers for disposal by a contractor, for example, at another site or at a landfill or at a liquid site, but not in the yard. And finally, let me turn to the concerns raised by our employee, Mr. Raymore. As he mentioned, he delivered about 350 pages of documents to the city. Many of those pages just simply copies of state or law or federal documents. But all of those documents have been reviewed. They have been provided to council over the last 2 weeks, or a little more than that, I guess now 3 weeks. I've had the opportunity.
I was told there'd be an investigation. The packet that was intended for us, I just wanted to tell you, I just got it about 10 minutes before our meeting, so I haven't even opened it yet. I was told there'd be an investigation. The packet that was intended for us, I just wanted to tell you, I just got it about 10 minutes before our meeting, so I haven't even opened it yet. I can't